Hey everybody, I'm Oliver Joyce from Whiskey Barrel Studios, and welcome to a torrential downpour of rain here in Sydney, Australia. And some of you may know, but Australia is struggling through a massive flood at the moment, here in New South Wales anyway. So much rain. I saw a video of a house being carried away by raging river waters just yesterday. It's crazy. Where I am in the northern suburbs of Sydney, it's been lots of rain, but we've been pretty safe. So thank you for your concern. I appreciate it. But yeah, safe and dry and warm. A lot to be grateful for. Today is the long-awaited, well, maybe it's not long-awaited, but I've been meaning to do it for quite some time. It's an Ask Me Anything Discord edition. So, for those of you who are on the Discord, there is a little channel there called Ask Oliver. And I haven't answered any of the questions in that channel in months and months and months, just because I've just been kind of time poor, and sometimes it just sort of gets away from me, and I start to answer one, and I think, if I do one, I have to do 10, and I have to do 100, and then they pile up, and that's what's happened. So what we're going to do is today we're going to go through some of those questions over the next sort of half an hour or so. This isn't going to be an hour and a half long video, just because there's an attention span thing as well. I don't know if you guys want to hang around for an hour listening to me talk either. So we're going to do about half an hour, and we're going to do it from reverse order. So we're going to start from those recent questions and go backwards. That might not seem that fair to those who answered questions, have been waiting a long time to hear the answers, but I feel like maybe you don't want to know the answers anymore, or you've moved on. So we'll do the more recent ones and go backwards. I don't know how it's going to work, but what I'm going to do though is I'm going to bring up the Discord channel here, and we will switch over to that window here, so you can see. If I move my webcam, make it a little smaller. Yeah, okay. You'll be able to see the answers the questions as they come. All right. Once again, as usual, I haven't done much preparation, and as you know, in these Ask Me Anythings, often I don't know the answers because I make up so much stuff in Swords and Sandals. I kind of put it in there at the time and don't really think about why I did it. So we're going to start right at the bottom right at the top, really, March 22nd. So asked yesterday. A random bruh asks, very important question. What's the full layout of Swords and Sandals 2, the DNA line system? Because I'd love to know where the armor and weapon numbers are located in the DNA line. So far, I know the body numbers, but the armor and weapon numbers and so on, I don't know. If you can answer that one day, that would be awesome. Yeah, I can't answer that off the top of my head. I do have the code for it, obviously. I might try and post it here in the Discord for you at some point, so you can muck around with it a little bit more. The game's been out for so long, I don't think it would do any damage. But yeah, I'll try to remember that. Envan asks, hey, since I've been playing a lot of Swords and Sandals 5 lately, I'd like to ask two questions. What makes the hard and insane difficulty on the dungeons drain your health first instead of armor, which makes it unplayable? Do you have thoughts to fix it? I didn't know it did that. It's probably a bug. No plans to fix it at the moment. I'll write down. I've got a little, I've got sort of a notepad of stuff that I write all my things down in. A digital notepad called OneNote, and it has all of my bug list stuff, so you can see all the bugs that I have here for the various games. Not that much written down for Swords and Sandals 5, but I will add it in there for to do at some point. So we'll actually do that now. We're going to add this. Look at this, real-time bug reporting. Okay, so that's in there now. All right, this is pretty exciting stuff. Okay, skip. I'm going to skip a few of these that I feel like I can't answer, or they're just sort of conversation. Leonardo Devonki asks, hello, I don't know if the question's been asked, but what game engine do you use? Right now, I use Godot for Swords and Sandals 6. Officially pronounced Godot, I found out yesterday. Not Godot, not Godot, not Godot, but Godot, like Waiting for Godot, the Samuel Beckett play. I use Godot. It's pretty cool so far. I've been using it for about 6 weeks for Sword and Sandals 6, and it feels to me halfway between the old Flash and new Unity systems, and I think that's quite a good sort of compromise there. In the past, I've used Flash and Adobe Air and Starling, which were all sort of various sort of iterations on the old Flash systems. But I wouldn't recommend anyone use that because that's a dead technology now, and there's no sort of point. I mean, you can still make games with it, as in you can make games with anything, but there's not a lot of features to be found in that, and there are a lot better engines for making games. It's funny, I found with just even 6 weeks of working with Godot, the amount of things that I can do now that I couldn't do. Oh, I just wish I'd started sooner. I'm just thinking of how much better the old games, or how much easier it would have been to make those old games. I did things the hard way for a long time. I used Unity for Spartacus as well, Sword and Sandals Spartacus, last year. And I liked Unity. It was cool, and I'd probably recommend it for 3D development at this stage. But for the purposes of the kind of game that I want to make, I found Godot was better suited for 2D and UI sort of stuff. So, and it just makes sense to be a bit more. Vincanian asks, "Hey Oliver, I'm a fan of the series, played and finished all the games, and I'm waiting for Sword and Sandals 6. A few questions, mostly lore related. Oh, I can never remember the answers of these lore questions, so I'm always contradicting myself. What was the original story behind the talking coconut of Sword and Sandals Pirates? What were his goals, etc.? A few years ago, I managed to get the alpha version of Ships and Scurvy from the old website. Oh, wow. Didn't even remember I'd put it up there. And he was very important, much more important than in Pirates. Yeah, originally he was going to be the guide, the sort of the help guide. Sword and Sandals sort of Ships and Scurvy, which was the precursor to what became Sword and Sandals Pirates, was originally not set in the Sword and Sandals universe because I didn't own the rights to the series or anything like that. And it was a standalone pirate adventure where you washed ashore on a desert island, and you had a talking coconut who helped you, and he guided you from place to place and set you off fighting different sort of pirate champions, basically. And in the end, he would betray you. I couldn't remember what the reason was, but he was to have quite a pivotal role and be the final boss of the game. So there you go. Question 2, what names were the people of Elder Hath used, and could you tell us about them? Funny enough, yesterday I actually put in the random name generator for the Elder Hathians, and they use basically Egyptian names, ancient Egyptian, so like Hatshepsut and Aten and all that sort of stuff. I've put together this random name generator which uses prefixes and suffixes from basic ancient sort of Egyptian sounding names, so you get some really cool variations of names in there, and it sounds pretty convincingly Egyptian. They're basically like ancient Egyptians with huge pyramids and desert, with sort of death magic and that kind of thing. So that's all I can tell you for now, but they do appear in Sword and Sandals 6, and we may find out a bit more about them then. Speaking of Elder Hath, what other intelligent species other than the standard drow like Elder Hathi live there? Drow being the Dark Elves from Forgotten Realms, Dungeons and Dragons. I remember these Amazon-like female gladiators, Sword and Sandals 3. Were they from Elder Hath? Were they humans or just human-like? They don't exist. They're no longer canon. I took them out. They're just too stupid. So I don't know what else exists in Elder Hath yet. To be determined. I have only I barely even touched it in my own head. I just know it's a sort of strange, mysterious continent with big pyramids and caves. But yeah, you can choose a few of the Elder Hathian races in this game, and I have done a few little paragraphs of backstory for each one. Will we meet the Starbound Gladiator in Sword and Sandals 6? How will you solve the problem that it could be of different species, names, genders, depending on the player? Was Starbound Gladiator turned into automaton? All will be revealed. You will definitely meet him or her, but he may be so covered in sort of space power armor, it'll be sort of up to you what they look like. But you'll definitely meet them. They'll play an important role in Sword and Sandals 6 because, of course, they were the hero from Sword and Sandals 3 who went off into space with the automatons to fight in a big space tournament. Last time in Sword and Sandals 3, automatons took away the laser guns and enchanted guitars when they left the planet. Well, they also refused to share technology this time. They return, of course, to Sword and Sandals 6, and all that technology is only for the purpose of competing in these tournaments. And they're sort of the lore. I've kind of retconned it, so it's basically this sort of these power generators with power fields, and you can only use these technologies within a radius of the power field. It's almost like sort of Wi-Fi, basically, wireless charges and so on. And then when they go, they'll take it with them again because it's too powerful and the stupid peoples of Brandor can't be trusted with them. What are automatons like? Could you make a conversation befriend one of them? Or they focus on a single program goal? All will be revealed. I'm actually going to have automatons that you can interact with in this game, and I kind of consider them to be not evil. They're not evil. They're not benevolent, but they are definitely not evil. They travel around in these huge sort of starships, have escaped the destroyed system. They look, of course, like Terminator robots or Necrons from Warhammer, with their interesting technologies and interest in fighting and so on. They definitely take an interest in Brandor because there are so many good fighters there. So more will be revealed about them as well. Good luck in the game. Thank you. They're good questions. General Nick Mako, the Machine, who's done some awesome suggestions, and I've read them all, and I salute you, Gladiator. You've done so much to inspire me for Sword and Sandals 6 and hopefully make the game better. If even I can put like 10% of what you've suggested into the game will be better. Good day, all. I hope your coffee is nice and hot. Well, it was. Now it's empty. I should get another one. Got some questions. Question 1: will the old tracks from previous games return or be remastered for Sword and Sandals 6? All new soundtrack for Sword and Sandals 6. It's got a really killer 1980s style power synth. Think of Eye of the Tiger, the theme song from Transformers, Karate Kid, all those kind of awesome. So if you've watched Netflix and watched Cobra Kai, think of the soundtrack from that. That's what you're going to get. Alex Tassani, also known as Electro, fantastic composer, and he's been working with me. I've commissioned him to do a bunch of tracks for the game, and we've got about 8 or 9 or even more tracks so far. And some of them sound like the Sword and Sandals theme song, but they've been updated because I went with an 80s style sort of vibe for this one because the automaton robots are so sort of 80s Terminator kind of feel to them. I thought this would be kind of cool. And I'm also inspired by like Flash Gordon and the music of Queen. So it all kind of mishmashes together to be this sort of space opera. And you're going to like it. But if we do sort of a multiplayer mode and so on, you might see the more traditional themes, songs appear in that and maybe remix of them. Question 2. In the video, What's in Sword and Sandals, you said that stamina will play a bigger role in Sword and Sandals 6. And you'd have more or less turns based on the stamina, and a quick character will have more turns, and a strong one will have less turns. How is this going to work for bards and mages? Will more stamina allow you to do multiple spells, guitar attacks? Yeah, that's the plan. Every ability, whether it's walking, ducking, jumping, raising your shield, casting a fireball, will have a stamina cost, and maybe that's an action points or something like that, separate to essence. So fireballs and everything will still have an essence cost. It might be 80 essence points, which are determined by magicka, and action points, which are determined by stamina. So you might have, for instance, 100 action points, and a fireball takes 40. So you can do 2 fireballs, and then maybe step back takes 20. So you go fireball, fireball, step back. I'm going to work out how this is all going to play out, and it might not work. We'll abandon it if it doesn't work, but I want to see how it will work. But yeah, bards might be able to play 3 power chords and smash off some power attacks. So stamina will be more important. Every stat should be important in Sword and Sandals 6. I don't want any redundant stats. That's why I've got rid of attack and defense, and I'll tell you about them in a future video. But there won't be... It'll be more based on ducking and jumping and choosing the right attack, raising your shield, blocking. There's going to be a lot more tactical stuff. Okay, chill remote. I just kind of asked in case of since the Pokemon games. Oh, here's a little spoiler text. Usually you have the main fight antagonist late in the game around the 7th or 8th gym before you fight the champion. After beating all 8 champions, who is considered the final boss of the main story? I can't reveal that. That's a surprise. You're going to find that out. But you'll be, it's not Antares, I can tell you that. Scratch him out right now. Chill Remote asks, will the final boss fight in Sword and Sandals 6 be against the main antagonist or some kind of Tritonia champion? The main antagonist of the game. There will be Tritonia champions to fight around. Still to be determined, but yeah, lots more arena bosses as well. Charlex says, can't be Emperor Antares. It's the envoy of the Malevolent. He's probably sure it's an envoy of the Malevolent, someone like the Nazgul or Sauron. Plot has to be alive itself, especially in its ending. The detail is a surprise from Uncle Ollie. Yes, you're right. I missed the question from the numbers. Is this next game intended to have any multiplayer like Sword and Sandals 3? I still think back to my time playing that online. Yeah, it is definitely intended. There'll probably be separate modes in the one package. I still haven't worked out how that's going to work at now, but I got some big plans for it. Sword and Sandals 6 being the campaign game, and then there's a multiplayer mode tied into everything. So yeah, there will be multiplayer. I might actually sort of put it into early access with just the single player mode, and then we build a multiplayer mode as we go along. I've got to think about how multiplayer is going to work, because it's a huge thing to add and get right. And all this sort of, just even listening to the people on Discord and everything talk about it, and there's anti-cheating, there's all sorts of issues you got to think about, server loads and stuff like that. And it's kind of, I did it about when Swords and Sandals 3 came out, but technology's changed a lot since then, and even back then we had a lot of issues with it. Okay, Chill Remote says, in Swords and Sandals 6 we'll be able to explore the land of Eldohath and Sigalis. Drumroll please. No, not in Swords and Sandals 6, but there may be additional campaigns for that, as in extended maps. I want to extend Swords and Sandals 6 and so on in the package, basically, into something that has, so I don't have to keep making sequel, new game on Steam, new thing, because that's very time consuming. It'd be nice to have this thing, like I'm thinking of basically DLC, like in something like Stellaris, where they have additional races and additional content packs for the game which you can buy. Rebo asks, is it normal to get stuck at the first Sword and Sandals game? Is it normal to get stuck at level 16 and money doesn't go so high? No, that sounds like a bug. Honestly, probably just start a new character. What is the end boss of Sword and Sandals? He says he just finished it with the boss with the sword that has H on it. Yes, it's He Chaos. Charco Frias says, will Sword and Sandals 6 be more like the first three games, or will it try to do its own thing like 4 or 5? It'll be more like the first 3 games, but a lot like 2 and 3, but with an overworld map you can travel around, and much more interesting detailed combat. The Necron says, are the witch shopkeeper and the priest from Sword and Sandals 2 based? Like, are they high? Are they on drugs, you mean? I'm not up with the kids' lingo these days. They're not meant to be on drugs or anything, but they kind of look like they are. Like, you mean like they've sort of been smoking some cones or something? Red pilled, says Katsunumi. Nah, I mean, maybe the witch is. She's been drinking from the cauldron. UV asks, in Sword and Sandals 3 Solo Ultratus, what was supposed to happen after the automatons took you away at the end? Well, you being the Starbound Gladiator was supposed to go off and fight in a big tournament amongst sort of the best gladiators from different planets on a starship. And that's kind of, it is revealed what sort of happens in Sword and Sandals 6, what sort of adventures they had. I'll kind of tell you a bit about that, because this sort of bridges the gap. Low Skill says, in Sword and Sandals 6 announcer video, you describe 2 systems: positional hit system, as in you can hit the guy in the head or do a low kick, and a system that allows for different amount of actions per turn. How are they going to work together? For example, if the knight chose to jump, will he stay in the air for all 3 of the ninjas' turns? And what will the turn structure like? Will it be classic? Player 1 chooses move, player 1 executes move, player 2 chooses move. That is the $64 million question. We have to work that out. That will be something that I'll play through in my head. I went on a big hike a month or so ago, and I had this total sort of moment of clarity about all that. But I've written it down, but right now I can't. So if I had to say, okay, you won't remain in the air for a start. You might just get your one turn. So if you're a heavy knight and you can jump, and that's one move, you might be able to jump. That's your move. But you basically, both players will put their moves in at the same time, and it'll play out in sequence. I think that's how it works out. So you might jump one move, but the second player, the ninja has 3 turns. So at the same time, you jump, he jumps, land. He also gets 2 extra moves, high kick, throw ninja star. And it plays out. It may not work. I'm kind of curious to see if it'll work. S&S Crusader 2 says, Ships and Scurvy win. Chill Remote says, that got retconned into Sword and Sandals Pirates. Yep, that's right, as we mentioned earlier. I I like the name Shitsum Scurry, though. It was kind of fun. Zura Genai Curry Ninja Da says, will you be doing exclusive gladiator classes similar to Sword and Sandals 5 class sets like Crusader, Monk, Mage, or Priest, but with their own fighting style? To be determined. I thought about it. Maybe it'd be kind of fun at least to have certain abilities that only monks can do. But it might also be that depending on how you play, the game just assigns you like a title. So if you're fighting with unarmed weapon, with your bare hands and so on, you're a monk. If you're using a lot of spells, the game will say you're a wizard, that kind of thing. I think that's kind of what happened in one of the Sword and Sandals. Chill Remote has a spoiler tag that says, what was the inspiration to incorporate Earth into Sword and Sandals franchise? Is there anything to do with Spartacus being retconned into a canon game? Yeah, the inspiration was firstly to try and bring in medieval into the franchise, because what was that doing on Earth? That was originally another game called You Are a Knight. But also Spartacus, yeah, I wanted to somehow retcon that in that, he chaos visits Spartacus and the Roman Empire, and you meet him in the game and that kind of thing. Mostly, I think it was a way for me to justify having all these different peoples in the world of Brandor and Tritonia that are basically, Japanese or French or, Arabic and that kind of thing. I want them to be based, in some way. That didn't arrive, that doesn't appear in a vacuum. Someone from Japan might have come across and brings their own sort of, I remember how, this is how we used to build in Japan. And so they go to Drakendir and they influence the culture there. And over the years, you get these sort of mixed matches. So everyone that's there that has a human background in the world of Brandor has come from Earth, basically. The ones from blue skin, green skin, they're all from different planets also. But that's basically how I want it to work. And time passes differently. So 1 year might pass in the world of Tritonia, but 100 years might pass on Earth. So that's why we get someone like Sir Brian of May, the great guitarist. Basically, Brian May from Queen, born in the 20th century, can arrive in Phaetor in, the year 580, and only sort of 10 years might have passed before that, but someone from this 1000 AD in Earth can also arrive 10 years before, and they kind of match up. It's very confusing, but think of the movie Interstellar and how the time passes differently in different planets. It's very pseudo. It's not even legit science, but it's all sci fantasy, right? Chill Remote says, will there be any non-binary characters in Sword and Sandals 6? Decided to bring that up since a show that I'm not familiar with called BDFI Teapot introduced 2 non-binary. For me to decide whether you can or you can't be, if you want your character to be transgender, sure. And to help that along, I want you to be able to choose whichever voice set you want. So if you want to make a transgender character that has a female body type and a male voice, or vice versa, you can do that. And there may well be characters you face that have that, because it should be an inclusive world. And I think why shouldn't we have those characters in the world of Brandor just like we have in real life? So so I'm going to say there's transgender characters in the game. Have I created any specifically so far? Not yet, but I may. Also, what's your favorite plan in Plants vs. Zombies? Some of my favorites are Gloom, Shroom, Pump, Wintermelon, and Torchwood. I haven't played that game. I played it once, but I didn't get far enough into it to have any favorites. Katsu and Lumi asks, what can you get from those adventures? Will adventures return in Sword and Sandals 6? Asked to Remote. And will you get equipment and spells? When will they occur? Not sure yet, but probably in between going from arena to arena, if at all. Spoon of Destiny asks, would any community event such as the Make an Arena Champion event be done for Sword and Sandals 6? Maybe later on. I've got a lot of arena champions to create already, so I don't want to kind of increase the workload too much. But certainly after early access release, we might be able to get some more fan-made champions into the game. It would be kind of fun. Niall Joy asks, hi Oliver, will there be any further work done on Sword and Sandals 4? I want to play with my friends, but when you finish the quest, I can only buy stuff for player 1. Thank you, and keep up the good work. Thanks, mate. I don't know. I actually did start a patch for that game where you could buy stuff for the other characters and save them and so on, but it got quite complicated and I sort of gave up on it. That is not to say I've given up entirely, and I might sort of take a look at it again at some point, but right now I really have to focus on working on this new game. Because you can patch these old games forever, you know. It's just like, you can, you know, it's been, yeah, it's a hard one because I want to be able to support the old games, but some of the things I just can't fix, and, you know, it's hard. I want to make new content as well, so if I was going to patch anything in that game, that will be it. Chill Remote says, do you plan on making licensed games based off other franchises like you did with Gross Out? No. No plans for that. What are your favorite Western cartoons, favorite anime? Western cartoons, my favorite was one called Ulysses 31 from the 80s. It was amazing. Favorite anime, I actually don't know a lot of anime. I really like the Castlevania anime on Netflix. I've seen, you know, not a lot of anime, to be honest. A bit of Dragon Ball, that kind of thing. But there's so much anime on, you know, various channels now. It's amazing. But I just haven't had time to watch it all. Tomato Gun asks, what may I ask happened after you finished Sword and Sand 3 when you aboard the ship and go to space? Well, yeah, as I answered that earlier, I won't go to that one. Oh, there's a comment that I wrote. Skip that one. What if the little fat kid and his friends played something else? Don't know what that one is about. So Chill Remote has asked a lot of questions. I might have to skip them because try and get to a few other people. My apologies. Will there be Sword and Sandals 4 Redux? Asks Vic Ned. Never say never, but probably not. You never know. Unless someone else wants to make it, I'll pay them. Chill Remote does have a lot of good questions. I'm sorry I'm skipping a lot of them all. Like this great one. Who would win, a billion lions or all the cast of Sword and Sandals combined? Let's say one Bargle could destroy a billion lions. Game over. Okay. He even says if the Sword and Sandals cast won because of Bargle, would the billion lion army win without Bargle on that Sword and Sandals team? We should do Sword and Sandals 7, a billion lions versus Bargle. Without Bargle. Yeah, I don't know. It's a great question. Could you reach Sagalis by going east from Brandor as well? Yeah, you could. What's beyond the west of Sagalis? Probably nothing. Just a big ocean. You come around. There's 3 continents in Tritonia. Brandor, Eldorhath, and Sagalis. You've got so many good questions, Chill Remote. It's hard to I want to answer most of them. What would happen if you descended from the constellation mirror? Would you fall through the ground if you didn't use a starship? And how are people given enough time to build starships to go through the mirror? Well, I've kind of envisioned the mirror looking like, if I go full screen here, imagine this is the flat ground here, and this is the mirror like this. It's kind of like that. So you come through the mirror and land on the ground. It's a vertical mirror, not like that. It's actually sort of a circular mirror with stars and so on. There's my boy Isaac, astronaut. And so yeah, you'd fall into this grass. It's a nice grassy island in the middle of a Lake Cavaldar in Phaetor, and the constellation Mirror Lake. So you'd be fine. How would people be given enough time to build starships to go through the mirror? Well, people have come from other planets and built starships. Nobody on Brandor has been able to build a starship. No one's been able to go through the constellation mirror. If you try to go through and jump through, you just fall into space. So that's how I figured that out anyway. Mateus asks, will any popular character ever die permanently in Sword and Sandals universe? Yeah, it's funny because everyone seems to come back. There will be a beloved character die in Sword and Sandals 6 and not return. Vlastrab asks, are you planning on adding more music from Sword and Sandals 5 Redux or Crusader Redux to the Steam soundtracks? Not to that one, but there'll probably be a soundtracks 2 when I have enough tracks. Yeah, not yet. Chill Remote, who I think is Eldegoss, you've changed your name. I'm just trying to work that out. I think so. How did Lapis Devastatum get from Lorataria Island? He's the island sentinel from Sword and Sandals Pirates, all the way to the Vengeful Pyramid in the north of Brandor. Much like King Kong, he was carried on a big ship by the explorer Sir Isaac Atlas Joyce, who is the character my son plays in the world of Sword and Sandals. My youngest boy Charlie doesn't have a character yet, but we'll get him one. But yeah, big ship, and they chucked him in the pyramid when they realized he was dangerous. Okay. Vlavstrab asks, I know at the end of Sword and Sandals Crusader, it said that the Sons of Frost never rose again, but is there any chance they return? I really like pause. They don't come back that I know of, but we could certainly bring the people of Gunteria and Warmhaven and still exists, and the tribes are still there. There's just other tribes will come to the fore. So there might be like, the Frozen Axes or something like that, another tribe. Or maybe they'll come back, the grandsons of those ones. Quick one for Chill Remote. Why is Zia-Hath a nickname for the Forbidden Deaths? Zia-Hath is just the sort of language of Eldor Hath. Their language sounds a bit like that. Zir and Hath and Akin and Nept and all the sort of Egyptian sounding words. But yeah, I kind of figured that it was just Hath means place, and Zir would mean, dark, bad place or something like that. So Eldor Hath. What does Eldor mean? I don't know yet. We'll work it out, but it might be sort of, the original place. So the Eldor Hathians are from the original place. There you go. It's canon. Okay. Why is Gaiac so much larger than the other Cycladians? Asked Chilremote. He's not a Cycladian. He's actually a proper Cyclops. That's why he's 70 feet tall. He just looks like them. Robel asks, are we going to fight in an arena at Eldor Hath in Sword and Sandals 6? To be revealed. Probably. There is a list of people who descended from the constellation Mirror from Earth. Spartacus and Painbringer. Sir Brian of May. There's a few other ones which I will reveal on time, but I can't tell you off the top of my head. Luton, I just want an update for Tavern Brawls. You mean Tavern Quest, so that every player gets money. Yeah, I covered that. I'm sorry. I do want to do that. The Numbers asks, out of curiosity, how were the Sword and Sandals demos hosted on other sites? I always thought the little fizzy thing was interesting, but of course the demos don't work now because of it. So how it worked was back in the old days. I should go back to my... There you go. So how it worked is back in the old days, you could, when you made a Flash game, there was a little loader. It was a little Flash movie that then you sent around to all different sites. And inside that Flash movie was a link that loaded up a Swift file, a Flash file, hosted on our own Fizzy servers. So we sent all these little stub players, they were called, around to Newgrounds and Yoga Buenos and all the different big game sites and so on. And then those little stub things would then load up and then load the game remotely from the Fizzy website. So then I could change the game and patch it, and it would sort of appear patched on all the different sites. So it was kind of cool. But of course, when the Fizzy servers went down, that was the end of most of those. Yeah, it was one of the cooler things we did back then. There was some good stuff from back in the day. It wasn't all bad. So many good questions. I'm sorry, Chilroma. You have so many good questions, but I just don't have time to... Can you give us any detailed information about Anti-Midas, the Snake Oil Salesman? I know he appeared in Sword and Sandals Pirates as part of a special event. He's based on a real-life person who I am not friends with. That's all I'll tell you for now. Will you add achievements to Sword and Sandals 5 on Steam? I thought I had. Oh, yeah. So this is going back to December, yeah. So, yes. They're done there. That now has achievements on Steam. In Swords and Sandals, Robel asks, in Swords and Sandals Crusader Redux, Antares is a black skeleton, but in the cutscene at the end of 9, he's a normal white skeleton. Why is that? Continuity error. It was my stuff up. He was meant to be black. Logic asks, are you ever going to add Swords and Sandals 3 multiplayer? Just wondering if it did come out, I'd play it again and again. That will never come back in its current form, but if I do Swords and Sandals 6 and the multiplayer thing and all that, I will hopefully have another campaign as DLC that you can add on to the game, which is Swords and Sandals 3. And it won't have the old Swords and Sandals 3 systems per se, but you'll be able to fight against all the old arena champions and so on using the Swords and Sandals 6 engine and multiplayer, which would be kind of cool. Chill Remote asks, you must be a huge fan of Pirates of the Caribbean, right? The town theme from Swords and Sandals 5 original kind of sounds like the Pirates of the Caribbean main theme. Yeah, it does actually. But I didn't actually compose the town theme. That was done by a guy. It's a free track I used from back in the day when I didn't have any money, by a guy called Kevin MacLeod. And he must have liked Pirates of the Caribbean. But I love Pirates of the Caribbean, and I'll show you this. Ignore that. Well, hang on. Show and tell time. Show and tell. We have the Black Pearl. The Black Pearl from Pirates of the Caribbean. Missing a lantern there. My boys. Well, Isaac's been playing with it. There you go. Yeah, I love Pirates of the Caribbean. Yeah, I'm a big fan. Even you know what? Look, even they're too long and they're big, heavy, overweight movies, but they're fun, and they don't make enough of those kind of cool adventure movies like that. So yeah, Swords and Sandals Pirates was definitely heavily influenced by that. All right, I think we're nearly done here, because we're going back to December. And I don't know if anyone else, is really paying much more attention. Who would win, Antares and his army after conquering Brando or all the automatons? I'm going to say the automatons would just nuke Antares and everyone from outer space. Promovies asks, why did you make Sword and Sandals 5 into a dungeon crawler and not a gladiator life sim? I wanted to do the life sim. I did a whole video on this actually back in the day, but to sort of sum it up, originally it was going to be a gladiator life sim inside a ludus, and you would train and make friends and alliances and go and fight and live and die in the arena and that kind of thing. But politics in the company changed and things changed, and that had to be scrapped, and I ended up deciding to do a dungeon crawler again, but then in favor of that, then I still had to put some of the arena stuff back in. It was a hard development, and it changed far too many times the scope of that game, and it kind of shows in that some things feel like they're a bit half-baked in there, like the arena battles. And 3 more questions. We'll go 3 more. Necron asks, are you going to buy a PlayStation 5 or Xbox Series X? He wrote that back in December. I wanted to buy one then. I still want to buy one now, but you can't find them anywhere. They're just, they're like over $1,000 plus, on eBay and that kind of thing. So I want to buy one, but I want to wait till they're a bit cheaper. PlayStation 5. I like the PlayStations. I had a PS4. I had a 360 Xbox, but I just, I kind of like the PlayStation controllers. Both meant to be awesome systems, though. And yeah, who has stronger magic, Bargle or Tectonica? Asked Chiller Remote. Bargle, stronger than anyone, too strong. Riger Hudge asks, why are there so many polearms and axes in Swords and Sandals 3, but so little swords and maces? Funny that one, because back in the day, Dungeons and Dragons, the rule book, that was basically where I got my inspiration for a lot of the weapons. And if you go to that old Dungeons and Dragons, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons 2nd edition Dungeon Master's Guide and Player's Guide, you can see all the weapons lists, and a lot of weapons in Sword and Sandals are based on those. There's not that many swords, but there's a list of about 20 pole arms and glaive guisarms and bardishas and pole axes and all these ridiculous weapons. So that's why I got them from there. So I want to sort of, it should be called, swords and pole arms, shouldn't it? Or pole arms and sandals. It doesn't really roll off the tongue. All right, one last question. Make it a good one. Yeah, do the characters in Sword and Sandals franchise run on cartoon physics? The whole thing's a cartoon. It's a space opera. The physics are all a bit silly. I actually wanted to do some interesting cartoon-style physics in this new one, make it a little bit more, robust and bouncy and so on. We'll see. They probably won't be as ridiculous as they were jumping around and so on, but it'll still be, quite cartoony and fun. But you know what? I feel like we have... Going back to that button. It's on my second screen. There we go. So I feel like we'll probably leave that there. I hope that's been kind of entertaining. Sorry it's been a bit disjointed today. Not getting enough sleep right now. Little Charlie's keeping my wife and I up a lot late at night. Wakes up every hour and a half. So Sword and Sandals 6 is going really well. I've just finished the character creator, and I'm now working on sort of the battle caravan and the basics for the character inventory and in association the shop stuff. And that will be the next sort of month or so. And then after that, I'll be going into the actual arena battle stuff. I wanted to tackle it earlier, but I need these bones in place so I can actually work out how the armor works, how the stats work, all that. And by doing the inventory system, I actually can work out the data structures I need before I get to the arena. It sounds counterintuitive because usually you'd think, let's just do a prototype of gladiators fighting and running and jumping and so on. That's how you mostly make a game. But because I've built so many Swords and Sandals games, I know kind of how that sort of stuff, works to a certain degree. And I want to get this stuff right, and then I'll go into that. So yeah, nothing to show, but I'm going to do another update for you next week, letting you know where we're at in the series. And hopefully I can start on some Games Gladiator stuff as well and do a few gameplay videos. I've got some games I want to check out, and hopefully you want to join me for that. As always, if you enjoy my ramblings, then be sure to like and subscribe. Hit the bell. We're nearly at 5,000 subs. Much appreciated. Thank you, everybody. It's taken a while because PewDiePie ain't, and I'm no Charlie Penguins either. Just an old timer making Sword and Sandals games, but I do appreciate you guys for sticking around and being part of the Sword and Sandals experience, and I do forever grateful for that. Hey, wherever you are, stay dry, stay out of the rain if you're in Australia, and if you're overseas, stay out of the sun, stay out of the snow, stay out of trouble, be good to each other's, and bye for now.